After injuring my arm during football practice, I sat quietly while my mum drove us home. She called a friend and laughed, saying, "He's a burden. I wish he had never been born. If he wasn't here, I would finally be happy. I could have married someone successful instead of being stuck with his worthless dad." Her friend snickered, asserting, "He'll end up a pathetic failure just like him." I used my uninjured arm to gather my belongings and vanished that night. 4 years later, she keeps calling, claiming she made a mistake. So I suppose this is one of those stories that has been stuck in my mind for too long, and now I'm just getting it off my chest. If you want to judge me, go ahead, but I need to share this. It started with something minor, like something completely random. I noticed my mum's car had a strange odor that day, as if she had sprayed some cheap perfume to mask the smell of the dog, but it just made it worse. I don't even know why I remembered that, but it lingered. It was Thursday, and I was at football practice, not even during a game, just regular drills. I had been arguing with my mom that week over trivial things, like her yelling about my grades and blaming my dad for why the lawn never got mowed on time. She was always tense, but it intensified after she saw her friend Brenda the weekend before. I could tell because she became unusually passive-aggressive, leaving the dishes for me and sighing loudly enough for everyone to hear. So, we were doing this tackling drill when I landed awkwardly and my arm snapped. I heard it and thought, crap, that's not right. It wasn't like in the movies. I didn't scream or anything. I just sat there, cursing under my breath while the coach called over. They iced it and contacted my mum, and I just sat there waiting, still in my gear, not even moving my fingers because it felt wrong. She arrived without getting out of the car, just honking. I held my arm, trying not to look foolish while walking over. She barely glanced at me and said, "You better not have broken anything, Lorenzo. I need to get to the store." As if I did it on purpose. On the way home, I remained silent, resting my head against the window, watching the traffic. My phone was in my bag, so I couldn't even distract myself. She was driving fast, changing lanes every 2 seconds, sighing. I asked if we were stopping at urgent care, and she snapped, "I don't have time for this right now. We'll see how it is in the morning." I started to say I needed to see a doctor, but she cut me off, claiming I always exaggerated and that she knew real pain. I fell silent. Then her phone rang. She connected it to the car, as she always did, wanting everyone to hear her conversation. I heard Brenda's voice, which always sounded fake. Mum started speaking over me as if I weren't there. She said, "You would not believe what my idiot son did. He's a burden. Honestly, I wish he had never been born." She laughed as if it were a joke. My jaw clenched, but I just stared out the window. Brenda chimed in, "He's just like his dad. Useless." My mum continued, "If he wasn't around, I'd actually be happy. I could have married someone who has actually accomplished something, instead of being stuck with his worthless dad and his deadbeat genes." I'm not even sure I heard it all. Maybe I zoned out for a minute because I just remember a strange silence afterward. Then Brenda mentioned she always knew I'd end up a failure, and Mom laughed as if sharing a meme, not realizing she was talking about her own child in the car. I was just sitting there, my arm throbbing, thinking, is this real? Am I actually hearing this? Or am I just angry and misinterpreting? But it kept going. They talked about finances, how my dad was always behind on bills, how I cost too much with sports and school. Mom expressed a wish to start over. I didn't say anything. I just sat there, watching the stoplights, listening. When we pulled into the driveway, she hung up and told me to go get the groceries from the back. I was still in my jersey, my arms swollen, and she acted like nothing had happened. I got out, opened the back, and she was already inside, slamming the door behind her. I grabbed the bags with my good arm, dropping one on the walkway because I couldn't hold them all, and she yelled from the kitchen, "Don't be so clumsy." I don't really remember the details of what happened next. I went to my room, sat down, and just stared at my phone for a while. I texted my dad, but he didn't answer. He always works late, picking up extra shifts because my mum spends money, like she's on a reality show. I heard her in the living room, watching some show and laughing with my sister as if nothing had happened. My sister Tiffany is younger than me and always seeks mum's approval, so she just goes along with whatever. I lay on my bed, scrolling through random stuff on my phone, unable to focus. I replayed the car ride in my mind, trying to convince myself maybe I misunderstood or that mum was just joking. But who even jokes like that? This wasn't the first time she said something messed up. I remembered her getting mad at me over a report card in 8th grade, throwing my backpack at the wall, telling me I'd end up just like my dad if I didn't get it together. She always blamed him for everything: finances, the house, her job, the way her life turned out. She used to tell me about this guy she dated in college, how he's rich now and how she could have had a better life if she'd chosen him. She's obsessed with comparing us to people who have more, like it's some competition. I guess she thought that if she made us feel small, she'd feel bigger or something. That night, I tried to sleep, but my arm hurt too much. I heard her and Tiffany arguing over the TV remote, then my mum slamming her door. I got up, went to the bathroom, and tried to see if my arm was really broken, but it was already turning purple, and I couldn't move my wrist. I returned to my room, sat at my desk, and started packing my backpack. I took some clothes, my charger, some cash I'd been saving from Christmas, and my old laptop. I didn't even think about it. I just kept moving. I grabbed my ID and my phone, leaving everything else behind. I didn't even make a plan. I just knew I wasn't going to wake up in that house again. I wrote a note on a sticky that simply said, "You got your wish," and left it on her bathroom mirror. I snuck out through the back, slipped out the gate, and started walking without looking back. I passed the neighbor's house, heard their dog barking, and kept going. I didn't know where I was headed, but I wasn't staying. I wasn't going to let her carry on as if nothing happened. If you want to know what happened next, maybe I'll post again. I'm just tired of pretending like this is normal. So, I didn't actually plan on doing an update, but I keep receiving messages and comments asking what happened, so here's part 2. The strangest thing about that first night was how quiet it was outside. You could actually hear the sprinklers from 3 houses down. I walked for a while, not knowing where I was going, just checking the time on my phone and scrolling through contacts. I almost called my dad but didn't. I ended up texting Parker because he was the only one who ever noticed when things were off at home. I didn't give him details. I just said I needed a place to crash. He sent me an address and said his parents wouldn't mind for a night or 2. I showed up, and he let me in through the garage without asking questions. His home always felt different, like people actually communicated with each other, not all fake or walking on eggshells. I slept on their old couch in the rec room, using my backpack as a pillow. My arm was killing me, but at least I wasn't listening to my mum yelling at my dad about bills or Tiffany whining about Wi-Fi speed. Parker's little brother came in around 6 a.m. for cereal, saw me, shrugged, and turned on YouTube. Parker's Mum asked what happened when she saw my arm. I told her I fell at practice. She suggested I should get it checked out, and when she noticed how swollen it was, she said she was taking me to urgent care, not even asking if my mum knew. The nurse made a comment about how I should have come in the night before, and I just nodded because I didn't want to explain. They put me in a cast and sent me back out. Parker's mum texted my mum, but I guess she never replied, so I just stayed at their place a few more days. Parker didn't push, but when I told him what my mum said, he didn't even seem surprised. To be honest, the only thing he said was, "That's rough, but you're not going back, right?" I wasn't. I started looking for ways to get out for real. Parker's parents said I could stay a week, maybe 2, but they couldn't keep me forever. I understood and didn't blame them. I messaged my dad, asking to see him alone. He picked me up without asking anything until we were halfway across town. He always drove slowly, as if he were afraid of messing up. I told him what happened that night, word for word. He just stared at the road, not saying anything for about 5 minutes. Finally, he said, "Your mum gets like that sometimes." "You know she doesn't mean it." I replied, "No, she meant it." He didn't argue. He never really did. I guess that was the issue. My mum always hated that about him, saying things like, "Why can't you stand up for yourself? No wonder Lorenzo never listens. You're too soft." My dad isn't stupid. He's just tired. He gave me some cash and said he'd help me find a place, but asked me not to make things harder for Tiffany. I promised I wouldn't involve her. I bounced around a bit, spending a few weeks at Parker's, then a few days with an old teammate, Aaron, who lived near the train station. I picked up shifts wherever I could, mostly cleaning and moving stuff. Nobody cared if my cast was on, as long as I did something. I kept my head down, living on cheap ramen and gas station sandwiches. I watched my mum's Facebook. She posted as if nothing had happened. Just pictures of Tiffany at dance and posts about her strong coffee. Silly stuff. Eventually, my dad said he found a cheap place to rent, just a room, but it was better than nothing. I moved in, paid cash, and the guy who owned the place just said, "Don't make noise after midnight and don't smoke inside." And that was it. I barely finished high school online because showing up at my old school was out of the question. My mum tried to message a couple of times, but she never apologized. Just sent things like, "When are you coming home? You're embarrassing. People are asking questions." I ignored her. Honestly, I wasn't even that angry most days, just numb. But then Parker told me my mum was telling people I ran away for attention, that I was lazy, and that my dad put ideas in my head. She blamed everyone but herself. She told my grandma I was using drugs, which was just absurd. My grandma called me, asking if I was okay, and I just said I was fine, and that was it. I established a routine of just working, eating, and sleeping. The thing is, I started hearing from my dad more. He would call late after my mum went to bed just to check in. I could tell he was getting more tired but also less scared. He told me my mum was spending more money than ever before, buying random stuff online, signing up for new subscriptions, and talking about getting a new car. My dad said the bills were spiraling out of control. He sounded panicked, asking what to do. I told him he needed to take care of himself first, not her. For once, I started helping him with paperwork, like setting up his own bank account and switching things over so she couldn't drain his finances. I did it all on his phone, showing him how to check his balances and track spending. My mum found out and got angry. She slapped my dad during an argument. He told her to stop, but she shoved him and locked herself in the bedroom. He called me saying he couldn't take it anymore. I told him, "Then don't." He asked if he could stay with me for a bit, and I said, "Yeah, but only if you actually want to get out, not just hide for a night." He moved in with me a week later. He started sleeping better and eating better. I watched him actually laugh at silly YouTube videos again for the first time in forever. My mum sent him about 20 texts a day, blaming him for everything falling apart. She started calling my grandma, crying about how he abandoned her, how he ruined her life, and how I was ungrateful. She told Tiffany it was our fault she had to sell things and that we betrayed her. Tiffany called me, asking why I hated Mom. I told her I didn't, but I wasn't going back. My dad began talking about divorce. I didn't push. I just said I'd help if he wanted it. He filed, and my mum went ballistic, showing up at my place, banging on the door. I told her to leave, and when she slapped me, I pushed her hand away and slammed the door. She called the cops, claiming my dad stole from her. The cops came, asked questions, but my dad had all his paperwork. They just told her to leave us alone. After that, she began spiraling. She lost her credit, missed car payments, and had to sell her belongings online. I saw her post in a local group begging for help with bills. She messaged me again, saying I ruined her life and that I'd regret it. I didn't respond. I started helping my dad set up his own matters, ensuring he was protected. We cut her off from everything. No accounts, no access to money, nothing. She tried to guilt trip Tiffany, but Tiffany started spending more time with friends. I heard from a mutual friend that Brenda stopped talking to my mom after she asked for money one too many times. I'm not going to lie, I felt a little satisfaction watching her finally deal with the mess. All those years of blaming others, and now she had to figure it out alone. My dad began reclaiming his life. He made new friends, went out more, and even got a dog. I kept working, saving up, and planning my next steps. My mum sent one last message, saying she would make me pay. I blocked her. It's wild how quickly things can change when you finally stand up for yourself. I'm not done. Far from it, but for the first time, I felt like I was genuinely winning. If you think I went too far, I don't care. She earned every second of it. Let me know if you want to hear what happened when she tried to come back. Things got even messier. So I didn't expect to gain this many people's interest, and some of you are wild with the messages, but honestly, thanks. Seeing strangers understand makes me feel less crazy about all this. Here's what happened after everything blew up and my mum started spiraling. The first thing that tipped me off something was wrong was when my phone started buzzing at odd hours. 3 a.m, 4 a.m. Not random spam, but calls from my mom. She never used to call except to yell at me or demand something, so seeing her number pop up repeatedly was strange. I blocked her, unblocked her, blocked her again. It didn't matter. She used different numbers and even got Tiffany to call once or twice. At first, I ignored it because honestly, what was she going to say that I hadn't heard before? But then Parker sent me a screenshot from our old neighborhood group chat, and it was my mom posting about losing her car, asking for advice about temporary setbacks. Seeing her like that, actually needing help, almost made me laugh. So yeah, she lost her car because she missed too many payments, and the house was next. My dad had finally wised up and stopped covering her bills, so she couldn't keep up. I heard from Tiffany that mum had to pawn a bunch of her jewelry and even tried selling off my old video games, like that would make a difference. Brenda was gone too. Apparently, they had a falling out over money, and Brenda blocked her on everything. My mum went on Facebook, ranting about fake friends. The thing about her is that she always thought she was too good for everyone around her, like she got stuck in our town by accident. She made comments about how she deserved more, how she could have had a better life if she hadn't settled. It was like nothing was ever her fault. She'd trash talk people behind their backs, and then act surprised when nobody wanted to help her. All of that caught up with her quickly. I won't pretend I felt bad. I wanted her to feel it. So, whenever she tried to guilt-trip Tiffany about how our dad abandoned her, I would talk to Tiffany and lay out the truth, reminding her of what actually happened, not in a mean way, just the facts. My mum started leaving voicemails saying she was sorry, that she made a mistake, that things had gotten out of hand. However, she would switch it up. One message would be tearful about missing me. The next would be angry, accusing me of ruining her life. I played those voicemails for my dad once, and he actually laughed. He never laughed at her. I told him she was just mad because she lost control, and he agreed. I never answered any of her calls, but she started texting Tiffany to reach me, saying things like, "Your brother needs to call me. I need help. I'm sick." Tiffany would screenshot those messages and send them to me. There was one time my mum showed up at my place, banging on the door again, demanding to talk. I opened the door and told her to leave. She tried to push past me, and when she slapped me harder than last time, I didn't move. I said, "You're not coming in." She screamed that I owed her, that I was her son, that she made a mistake. But, I reminded her, "You said you wished I was never born." She tried to deny it, and I repeated it word for word. She began crying, claiming she was stressed, that I misunderstood. But I told her, "You meant it." She slammed the door on her way out. After that, she started calling my dad non-stop, trying to get him to come back. He ignored her. She threatened to take him to court for money, but she had nothing on him. He had his own accounts, his own place. Everything was legitimate. Our family began to notice. My grandma stopped sending her money, saying she needed to figure things out by herself. She would show up at family events sometimes, but nobody wanted drama, so she ended up sitting in the corner, scrolling on her phone and pretending she didn't care. I made it clear to everyone I wasn't talking to her, not until she owned up, which was never going to happen. The only one I really cared about was Tiffany, and by now, she was old enough to stay with friends or with Dad, so Mum's guilt trips weren't effective. I even helped Dad gain full custody, not because he wanted to hurt my mum, but because Tiffany asked for it. My mum lost it when she found out, calling and screaming that we were destroying her life. I told her, "You did that yourself." She blocked me after that, but the block-unblock game continued for months. I started receiving messages from random numbers like, "Your mother is worried about you, you should call her." But it was evident it was just her trying to cover up her voice or using a new number. I ignored everyone. She started attending church more, posting inspirational quotes as if she were the victim. To be honest, I just muted her everywhere. But she kept calling. Even now, 4 years later, she still leaves voicemails every few weeks, half apology, half threat, sometimes just crying, sometimes blaming me. I don't answer. My dad is doing well now, actually happy for the first time. Tiffany is doing her own thing and barely speaks to Mum. My mum is in some rundown apartment, working temporary jobs, clueless about managing bills. Brenda is out of her life. The house is gone. The car is gone. All her old friends are gone. She wanted to be free of us and have her better life. Well, she got it. No drama, no forgiveness, no coming back. I made sure she lost everything she used to hold over us. She keeps calling, and I just let it ring. I'm fine with that. If you were waiting for some big reconciliation ending, sorry, that's not happening. Some mistakes can't be fixed, and I won't pretend to feel bad about it.